Hello. Better now? Yeah, should be good now. Right. So thank you for bearing with me, and thanks for letting me know that my microphone was off. It would have been not great not to know. Yeah, I was just saying I'm just sending the messages on Discord. Live stream going out now, and then getting started. Normally I'm a little bit less flustered getting started, but I had my whole thing typed and like my whole threads typed, and then I pressed Command Q instead of Command W and killed Safari. And of course, because I write the daily stats threads, because they're less than 25 tweets, I usually write them directly in Twitter. And so when you quit that, you just lose all of it. So I'll have to retype it after this this live stream. Sorry if you prefer the written version, but you'll have to wait a little bit in this case. So thank you very much for dialing in. This is the NFT market health analysis with me, Daniel Tenner, aka Swombat, where we look at the market, what's going on in the market based on the data of volumes in particular, what we can see, and also these last few days and today as well, we look at this new relevance index and all the fun that we're going to be able to have with it as it develops. And there's a bit of development today. So, but let's begin with looking at the charts. So as we can see, there has been a bit of a rebound in the last day, and it seems to be sustained for now. So that's nice. It also appears to be there in Zeneca Old, but if we look at the Zeneca Old without top 10, we'll see that it's maybe not quite as impressive as it seems. It's there's sort of also a little bit of a rebound there in the Zeneca New, and as for the Women in the Projects Index, that still appears to be headed down to hell, unfortunately. The background why, let's not have any suspense about it, is if we look at Bitcoin, we can see here that it's like, you know, yesterday, this was like when we did the last live stream, this was still looking green actually. So it was looking like it was maybe going back up. Now it's definitely not looking like it's going back up. Has it just retraced to rebound and then bounce back up? That may be the case. I mean, if you look at the 1 hour thing, yeah, maybe it's sort of like dropped here and then it's rebounded, although you never know, it might continue. I mean, I'm not a crypto futurologist. If I could read the tea leaves in terms of where crypto is going, I'd probably be doing videos about crypto instead of about NFTs. Or rather, I'd probably just be making bets about it and making lots of money. But yeah, so both Ethereum and Bitcoin, although Ethereum is looking a bit stronger than Bitcoin, rebounding a bit more strongly there. Both of them have been less of a sure bet upwards for the last couple of days, actually. And that's naturally, as usual, led to a return of interest in NFTs. It takes a day or two for the lag to work itself, but eventually we see this. Now, some of this is down to, if we go to the bar charts and look at what's going on, some of this is down to that somewhat unnatural attention that Pudgy Penguins has had. I mean, you know, it's not the best reason for increased volume that you got delisted from the major marketplace and then relisted again. And, you know, it is creating some trading activity there. There's a big question there of whether Pudgy Penguins is actually relevant, whether it should be having any impact at all. And it would be nice to see what a different relevance index would, what a different health index would show us, one that doesn't include Pudgy Penguins. Luckily, we do have that. We have that new top 10 that I've been working on, and that is also being generated. I didn't have the time to go and place it here and scale it up, but if we have a look at it, we can see that even with this one, and this one doesn't include Pudgy Penguins, we are seeing a good rebound here. So it's not just Pudgy Penguins making this happen. In this index that includes things like Azuki and World of Women, we are seeing a rebound in activity over the last couple of days as crypto has stagnated a bit. And we are seeing this kind of trend here. But let's look back at, there's not that much else to look at in these charts. in these bar charts. So let's look at the top 10 index, which at some point soon in the next few days, I hope any time now, I'll be replacing this, like phasing it out for a more gradually replaced top 10 that will have projects like Pudgy Penguins and even VFriends replaced with projects like Azuki and Doodles, which are more relevant to traders and investors in the market. And I'll talk a bit about also more about this relevance a little bit later. But what we can see is, we're probably back on this uptrend. Maybe even depending on how things go, maybe even on a slightly steeper uptrend. There depends how you want to draw the line. Either way, it's more optimistic than it was a couple of days ago. It's what I expected, that once crypto stabilized, things would shoot back up, and that is kind of what we're seeing. Hopefully, crypto now goes sideways for a while, and we get to continue our recovery up. If we look at sort of historical volumes there, we're now at sort of coming out of the bear market sort of volumes, with still some way to go before an actual bull market, but like heading in the right direction, definitely. And so that's good news. I mean, this is the volume we were at for much of January, and people were blissfully unaware there was not a bear, but there was not a raging bull market at that point. And so it's not a terrible place to be. It shows just how bad it's been for most of the month of February. So this is relatively hopeful. I'm giving it an amber dot today, and if it continues in this direction and sort of holds rather than collapse again as soon as crypto starts booming again, then I might even upgrade to a green. So, let's see. If we look at Zeneca Old, there, as I said, it looks kind of like it's rebounded and is, even on this chart, it looks, and this one includes the top 10 inside, it looks a bit like still in a kind of downward trend. If I look at the Zeneca Old without top 10 chart, it's rather more dramatic looking. As you can see there, it's a much steeper drop. Which one is more valid to look at? Well, that's a matter of perspective. They both have their use. I think that it is quite helpful to look at this one. And the next version of the indices will not have overlap between indices because it kind of duplicates data in this way. It's not very helpful. So this Zeneca Old with that top 10 shows us that, as we'd expect, actually, the Zeneca Old's index is still dropping quite rapidly while waiting for a clearer sign of market recovery. If we now move on to the Zeneca New, there we are seeing what we'd expect, which is continued downtrend, again, waiting for a clearer bull market sign. And it's kind of slowed down a bit. Like everything except for the women-led projects index is reacting to ETH not pumping anymore, but it's still not looking great. It's still in a downtrend, and it's, I think, going to continue doing that until there's a more general bullish feeling across the market. Finally, let's glance at the women-led projects index. It's fairly depressing. We made a new low during this last day. We're continuing to sort of trend quite sharply downwards. You can see this for yourself. It's a pretty steep channel just heading down, and it's continuing to do that. This despite the fact that this index includes things like World of Women and Meta Angels, and doesn't include World of Women Galaxies, but includes Crypto Coven, there's a lot of strong projects in there, but as a whole, that segment has just been going down in volumes over time. Maybe some projects there are just slowly dying and being abandoned, and maybe that number of projects is increasing. So even if Crypto Coven and Meta Angels and so on keep going flat, the index would go down if many projects in that space are progressively dying. Which is why, it's important to keep the index relevant, and hence why I'm still getting very excited about my relevance index. So let's go straight into that. you might see that if you go on Swombat.io, you'll find a new page here, which is the index. And if you scroll down a little, you'll see now all the projects. Like previously, I was showing you these in a Google Docs page. All the projects are now here. I haven't quite wired it up, but they will eventually update every day. So you'll get an updated version of this published around midnight or shortly after midnight UTC, which is nice. And also it shows us the change over 1 day, over 1 week, and over 1 month, which I think is really interesting because it starts to allow us to see how this thing changes through time rather than just the point view of where it is now. Now, bearing in mind, this is a relevance index where I've built the algorithm that I decided how I would calculate relevance. That is entirely arbitrary, but it feels to me like it's justified. It feels like an algorithm that balances things in a useful way, and is giving me answers that are roughly in line with what I would expect, with a few surprises that make sense to me. So that's one of the reasons why I like it. It's like if it gave me completely different answers to what I would expect. If, for example, I didn't see the Yuga Labs project near the top, I'd be like, ooh, like what's wrong with this index? Why is it not giving me the right stuff? As in, why is it not showing me Yuga Labs at the top? If I didn't see all these usual suspects somewhere near the top, I'd be concerned that the index is not really helpful. On the other hand, I like to see little surprises, like yesterday CryptoPunks was number 3 and today Azuki is number 3 on this index. And so it kind of enables us to see a sort of perspective of how this index is also changing through time here. Now that we have these changes, having charts would be even more interesting, and I'll get there. But please bear with me. I'm not there yet. But I can generate them. It's very easy to generate historical ratings for those, so I can definitely do it at some point. But right now, even just having this allows us to have a bit of a comparison and see how projects are doing over time. Like, for example, we're seeing, not very surprising, but good to see it confirmed, that Bored Ape Yacht Club and Mutant Ape Yacht Club continue to get more and more relevant as time passes. They continue to stack up those points here. But we also see Azuki sort of climbing up quite rapidly. So it went up by 4,000 points of relevance in the last day. I think somebody swept like, I don't know how many Azukis. And like the more this kind of stuff happens, the more the ranking goes up. And for example, it's taken over CryptoPunks in this ranking. Meanwhile, we see that CryptoPunks, on the other hand, has been slowly losing relevance over time, which makes sense based on what we know of the space. Like CryptoPunks was losing relevance. It might regain relevance when managed by Yuga Labs, but that hasn't worked itself out yet. It's still very impressive that this project is here near the top 5 years after it's been launched. But the fact is, it's like it is dropping in relevance over time, and until Yuga Labs does something to make it more relevant again, that will continue to happen probably, and eventually CryptoPunks might drop off the top 10. Not for a while though. You can see that, you know, if we go down to like 11, so these like NFT Worlds here is at 18,000, CryptoPunks is at 58,000. It would have to drop quite a bit to end up down there below, or a number of projects would have to do amazingly well to rise up above. In case you're curious, the italics ones are the ones that are less than 2 months old. I consider them differently. Like I think before 2 months have passed, the project is not entirely, like it hasn't quite proven itself. An interesting surprise to me was to notice how relevant Clone X was, but also that it is dropping in relevance over the last month. So it's doing better over the last week, but overall on the month it's down. So it means that, like, since it got bought by Nike, I guess Artifact has not necessarily been doing stuff that increases the relevance of the Clone X project. On the other hand, you take projects like World of Women, Doodles. We have to go a bit lower to see others that are really building relevance and that are older. VFriends is still building relevance. Gary V is still active, but we see a lot of these projects. So even actually some fairly recent ones. So Invisible Friends, like, was super hyped when it came out a month ago, and there's much less trading activity that keeps it relevant now, and so the index is dropping compared to a month ago. NFT Worlds, to my surprise, is also dropping. That may change, but it's basically what it's showing. Like, so the fact that it's dropping in relevance, by the way, doesn't necessarily mean that the project is crap and is not worth anything or something. It could be that it's just matured to the point where it's no longer a project for trading and investment. So if you think about it, take NFT Worlds, for example. That's a good case study. When it first got started, it was a free mint. People traded it actively all over the place, and like most of the NFT Worlds tokens would have changed hands somewhere in the first month, and so the rating would have been fairly high on the basis of lots of tokens changing hands, and that's going to be true for most hype projects. There's going to be lots of trading, and the price would have steadily increased. But as it gets to the point where people are no longer willing to trade it, the rating will eventually start to go down because people are no longer selling their NFT worlds. And even though the floor price goes up, it's no longer going up based on expected potential later. It's going up based on the fact that, okay, people are holding onto these things because they're making use of them. Like, people might be buying NFT worlds and building their metaverse stuff on there. And then they're basically like, so I know that Llamaverse has an NFT world, and I think it's on NFT worlds that they've built a kind of llama something. And they've gone and built a lot of stuff on that NFT world. They're not going to sell it to some random person. It's kind of locked up, and that doesn't make NFT worlds unsuccessful, but it makes it less relevant to people who are traders and investors. Because if you're a trader and investor, you're looking for either projects that are trading heavily with a lot of volatility, where you can make money from the volatility, or you're looking for projects that are undervalued, that are still going to be going up. And so projects that are already really mature, like NFT Worlds, it's a bit like a project that's IPO'd, like as in a company that's IPO'd. Once they've IPO'd, yeah, they might still get gains, but they're not going to get the super gains that you get from early startup investment. NFT Worlds is no longer an early startup to invest in. They might still go up over time, but they become a different kind of beast and less relevant to, I think, this index. That's the way I interpret this anyway. Obviously, you're free to make your own interpretation. By the way, if you have any questions about this or about anything else, do please ask them. I'll find some more stuff to rant about here. But I'd be happy to answer more questions about this or about anything else. I am looking forward to having, like, I'm going to add, there's already, like, I'm adding projects every day to this. There's 237 here. There's more queued to go out today, like to be added to this today. Some big, some small. I think I might add all the Art Blocks curated projects in there as well, just to get a sense of how they compare there. Is Sea of Thieves in here? No, Sea of Thieves is not in here. I have not heard of Sea of Thieves, but I don't know if they'll moon. Somebody asked this question, but they don't seem to be particularly easy to find on OpenSea. Isn't it a game though, Sea of Thieves? Like, I don't think they can use that. All right, okay. It was an April Fool's. Yeah, it's a game, Sea of Thieves. It's I haven't played it, but I heard it was good. I like Sid Meier's Pirates personally. I played the original one on my iPad, which is not great gamer street cred, but still it was fun. Yeah. So thanks for trolling me during my live stream. Appreciated. This is the April Fool's spirit. Yeah. Like, okay, so yeah, I'm hoping that I'll replace the index with this new index relatively shortly, but you might still have to bear with this older index for a few days. Sorry about that. What's the big question you're trying to answer today with your analysis? Is there a next question you're thinking of tackling in the near future? So The question, like the starting question that has always been the sort of underlying question in this set of reports is the market in a bull or is it in a bear? And therefore, how should I adjust my trading behavior? So is it the right time, for example, to buy into second tier projects that will pump after the, like, you know, based on the theory that blue chips pump first, then second tier, then third tier? When is the right time to buy into each of those? And like if we're in the middle of a bull market, is it a good time to sell, and so on? So are we in bull or bear is the fundamental question that I'm always asking here. And how is that changing? And, you know, can we predict roughly where it's going? And for example, I'm still of the belief, based on the data that I have, that, you know, we've got this trend that's slowly going upwards, and so long as crypto leaves us alone for a while, we should resume sort of climbing upwards. And at some point we'll end up with the similar situation that we had in early January. As these volumes build up, they'll go back to some kind of bull. Like the less of these kind of ape coin releases and crypto pumping and so on that we have, the more likely we are to have a kind of steady up curve in my view. But even if my view is incorrect, these charts tell me what is actually happening. So it could be that actually we're just on a downtrend, we're just going to go and head down, and my view is incorrect. And in that case, I want to know that, because I don't want to trade based on a view that is incorrect. And so these charts tell me what is actually going on. And that's then the sort of perhaps more fundamental question, meta question, is what the hell is going on in this market? This is why I'm also very excited about this, and why this plays a big part, because I think I'll be able to answer more interesting questions with different segmentation of the market. So I've been using this top 10 Zeneca Old, Zeneca New, and women-led projects for quite a while now, a good couple of months. And it's definitely creaking at the seams. It's like the Zeneca Old and Zeneca New, like those data sets were last updated, I think back in November or something like that. So it's missing a whole raft of new projects that are very relevant, as we can see here. You know, all these World of Women Galaxies, Cyber Brokers, Invisible Friends, Freelanders, MFers as well. Like a lot of stuff that's here is missing. Karafuru, a lot of those things are missing because they're relatively recent, Creeps, Genesis, etc. But with a more dynamic index, I can have them automatically included based on some kind of size rating or relevance rating, really. And I can, for example, have an index that says, okay, so for the top 100 most relevant projects based on the ratings at the beginning of the month, how is, like, you know, what is going on with these projects? How are the volumes like changing? And that seems like it will be a more useful answer than looking at just the Zeneca Old dataset, or the Zeneca New dataset. And I can also split that in different ways. So let's say I have 1,000 projects being tracked in here. I could say, okay, well, I want an index for all the projects that were started in the first half of 2021, and I want the top 100 of those. Like the top 100 most relevant projects that were started in that period, the top 100 most relevant projects that were started in the second half of 2021, the top 100 most relevant projects and started in 2022 so far, and I can compare how those indices are doing. I can, like, there's all sorts of clever things I can do to split the projects into groups to get more interesting groups that I can then track on this kind of market health index like thing. And then compare how they're doing, and like see what the relationships might be. Maybe there is a relationship where more relevant projects tend to pump first, or maybe there's a relationship where all the projects tend to pump first. Or I can also do comparisons of seeing, like, okay, in the first half, like in all the projects started in the first half of 2021, which ones are the highest performance ones? Like which ones are outperforming the markets most? Now, right now, the answer would be obvious. It would probably be BASI, but there's other ones that might be more surprising, and it'd be interesting to know which ones those are. When are these new indices? Anyway, when are they coming? I mean, they are in process of coming now. So I wanted to get this out because this gives me something else to comment in my threads, which unfortunately my thread got deleted, so I'm going to have to rewrite it and rewrite the comments, but it gives me a way to tag projects and get more interest. And I wanted also people to start looking at this and tell me which projects I'm missing. So I've got this out now, and then I just need to build that kind of dynamic index creation code so that I can replace automatically. So I can already run, in a way, the new index is already there. This is the new index, but it's not. It needs a little bit of work to replace things a bit. Like if I was looking at the full 1 year version, it would look too different from the top 10, from this one, and like the shape here would be too different because a lot of projects from like 5 of the projects from here at least would be missing from this area, would be missing projects that have been replaced with projects that got started here. So I want to start replacing them, say around here, to shift, like, because that's when I think they started losing relevance, and projects like Azuki and so on started gaining relevance. So the new indices are coming out now. It's just you're getting to see them as they come out in their sort of slightly malformed and incomplete state. And I'm hoping that in a few days I'll just have them replaced. Like I'm hoping to drop, like to have a dynamic top 10 at least in the next few days, and then the dynamic, like the replacements for Zeneca Old and Zeneca New shouldn't be too far behind, I think. So this new is 45 days from top 10 all the way to new, i.e. everything. I'm not sure I get your question, Kevin. Not sure if I fully understand it. If you could rephrase it, I'd happily answer it. But I'm not quite sure what your question actually means there. Like I can try and answer it by answering what is this new top 10 thing. This new top 10 is based on this index taking the top 10 more than 2 months old projects. So yeah, so this new top 10 is basically a top 10 index that instead of using, so the old top 10 is based on a selection of projects that I made manually back in November or so, which was these projects. Oops. So these projects I selected manually because they were highly relevant at the time. Back in November, these were the top 10 projects that everybody was looking at. And this new one is based on the relevance index. Yeah. And it's Bored Ape, Mutant Ape, Azuki, CryptoPunks, CloneX, Doodles, Bored Ape Kennel Club, World of Women, and NFT. Well, no, there's 2 of these ones. So like NFT Worlds and Cool Cats then. So these, yeah, it would be these 10. And eventually the goal is that once a month I'll look at what is the new top 10 here of, you know, projects that are more than 2 months old, and I'll automatically swap out old projects for new projects while maintaining the historical ratings from the old projects, so that it doesn't, because right now this top 10 just replaces those things outright. So like VFriends is completely absent from this. And what I would want is, let's say VFriends becomes irrelevant here, I would want the index to remain the same here before it gets to this point, and then from this point for it to use whatever project replaces VFriends. So it makes for a more useful historical perspective, because otherwise it's not useful. It's not as useful to compare an index, like where an index is today, if the historical. So if we look at the top 10 here, if this earlier bit doesn't include like most of the projects that are operating here, then we can't compare this to this. But if this is the 10 most relevant projects at this time, and this is the 10 most relevant projects at this time, then we can compare like for like to some extent. We can say that, well, the 10 most relevant projects today are getting less volume than the 10 most relevant projects 4 months ago, 6 months ago. And that becomes then a valid point of reference, I think. Cool. Hopefully that makes sense. Thanks a lot for dialing in. I think I'll call it a day now. We're about half an hour in, and I've got a thread to rewrite. That's going to be loads of fun, and I'll put some music on. I have asked my friend to record another one, and I think he was recording something, but he hasn't sent me the MP3 yet. So we'll have to wait a little bit longer for new music as well. But he got the message, so we'll have new music. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for your attention, whether you're watching this now or later. And I mean, obviously you're watching this now, but anyway, you get the idea. I hope to see you tomorrow for another data over vibes analysis of the market. Have a lovely day. Take care.